Dr. Emma Torres sat in the dark control room, staring at the computer screen that showed patterns she had never seen before. The signal came from somewhere near the center of the galaxy, far beyond where any human had ever traveled. It was not random noise or natural radio waves from dying stars. This was something made by intelligent beings, and it was screaming for help. The R-02 Deep Space Communications Array had been listening to space for 20 years, but nothing like this had ever come through. Emma called her team immediately. Dave Kim arrived first, his coffee still steaming as he looked at the data. Dr. Robert Singh came running from his office, his hair messy from sleep. "What are we looking at?" Dave asked, studying the strange patterns on the screen. Emma pointed to the repeating sequences. "Mathematical constants. Prime numbers, basic geometry, but look at this part." She highlighted a section that pulsed with urgent rhythm. "This is not just a message, this is a cry for help." The three scientists worked through the night, breaking down the signal piece by piece. The mathematics were simple enough for any intelligent species to understand, but the emotional weight behind the transmission was overwhelming. Even without knowing the language, they could feel the desperation. By morning, they had decoded the basic structure. The message came from multiple sources, dozens of different civilizations, all broadcasting the same urgent plea. The senders called themselves the Galactic Preservation Alliance, and they were dying. "They are fighting something called the Harvesters," Emma explained to the emergency meeting of world leaders and scientists. "Ancient machines that consume entire star systems. They turn all organic life into raw materials to build more of themselves." The room fell silent. President Wilson leaned forward. "How long have they been fighting?" "Decades," Emma replied. "Maybe longer. The message fragments suggest they have lost thousands of worlds. Entire species have been wiped out. They are sending this distress call to every corner of the galaxy, hoping someone can help." Dr. Singh pulled up a star map. "The signals are coming from here," he said, pointing to a cluster of systems near the galactic core. "That is about 25,000 light-years away. They do not expect anyone from the outer rim to respond. They probably think we are too primitive to even receive their message." Dave looked at the endless stream of data still coming in. "They are wrong about that. The question is, what do we do about it?" The debate that followed split the room. Some wanted to ignore the message, to keep Earth hidden and safe. Others argued that humanity had a duty to help. General Hayes, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up. "We need to know more," she said. "If these harvesters are consuming the galaxy, they will eventually reach us. We can fight them now alongside allies, or we can fight them later when we are alone." Emma nodded. "I think we can establish two-way communication. The signal is strong enough, and we have their transmission protocols now. We can talk to them." It took 3 days to modify the array for transmission. Emma crafted the first message carefully, using the same mathematical language the aliens had used. She sent basic information about Earth, its location, and humanity's desire to help. The response came within hours. The alien who answered called himself Rin, and he belonged to a species called the Tidecalers. His relief at finding another intelligent species was clear even across the vast distance of space. "We did not expect anyone to answer," Rin's translated message said. "Your world is in the Outer Rim territories. We thought those regions were empty of intelligent life." Emma worked to establish better communication protocols. As the days passed, more details emerged about the Galactic War. The Harvesters were not just machines, they were the uploaded consciousness of an ancient species that had chosen digital immortality over biological life. They saw organic beings as wasteful and inefficient, consuming resources that could be better used to expand. Their digital empire, the Alliance had tried everything. Their most powerful weapons barely scratched the Harvesters' adaptive hulls. Their best strategies were analyzed and countered within hours. Billions of beings had died, and the machines kept coming. "How many worlds have you lost?" Emma asked, during one of their daily communications. "Too many to count," Rin replied. "The Harvesters move like a plague across the galaxy." They strip everything, leaving only empty space behind. We estimate we have perhaps 2 years before the last free worlds fall. Emma shared this information with Earth's leaders. The scope of the disaster was beyond human comprehension. Entire civilizations were being erased and the galaxy was dying. They want to know about our military capabilities, Emma reported. They are desperate for any help, even from a primitive world like Earth. General Hayes smiled grimly. Tell them we are interested. Ask them what they need. The next exchange changed everything. When Rin learned about Earth's gravity, atmosphere, and weather patterns, his response was immediate and horrified. Your world is a death trap, he transmitted. How do you survive in such conditions? The gravity alone would crush most species. Your atmosphere is corrosive. Your weather systems are catastrophically violent. Emma looked at the data Rin had sent about typical Alliance worlds. Gentle gravity, controlled climates, peaceful ecosystems where predators and prey lived in careful balance. To the galaxy's civilized species, Earth was a nightmare world where everything was designed to kill. And your species, Rin continued, evolved as apex predators. You wage war on each other constantly. You have weapons that can destroy your own world. By the ancestors, we have contacted a world of Deathworlders. The term sent chills through the human negotiation team. Deathworlders, the galaxy's name for the theoretical nightmare species that could survive anywhere and fight anything. They are terrified of us, Emma reported to the Emergency Council, but they are also hopeful. They think we might be exactly what they need. President Wilson looked around the room at the assembled leaders. Are we really going to war against alien machines to save species we have never met? General Hayes stood up. The way I see it, we have 2 choices. We can hide and hope the harvesters never find us, or we can fight them now while we still have allies. These aliens have been fighting for decades. They know the enemy. They can teach us. The vote was close, but humanity chose to fight. Emma sent the message to Rin, informing him that Earth was mobilizing for war. The response came back immediately. Thank you, Deathworlders. We will transmit all tactical data immediately. The galaxy may yet survive. As Emma read the message, aloud she realized that humanity was about to discover what it truly meant to be the galaxy's apex predators. The harvesters had never faced anything like humans before, and neither had the galaxy itself. The emergency session of the United Nations had been going for 12 hours and tempers were running high. Representatives from every major nation sat around tables covered with alien data, arguing about humanity's future. The translated files from the Galactic Preservation Alliance painted a picture of horror that many still refused to believe. We are talking about abandoning our entire planet to fight in a war that has nothing to do with us, argued Ambassador Chun from the Pacific Coalition. These aliens survived for millions of years before we existed. They can survive without us. General Hayes pulled up the latest transmission data. The harvesters consume everything, Ambassador. If they finish with the galactic core, they will eventually reach the outer rim. Earth will be found whether we help or not. President Wilson looked tired. 3 days of constant briefings had taken their toll. Dr. Torres, what is your assessment of the alien situation? Emma stood up, her tablet showing the latest communications. With Rin, they are losing badly. The harvesters adapt to every weapon used against them. Traditional warfare is useless. The Alliance has been reduced to evacuation operations, saving who they can while entire star systems are consumed. And they think we can help? Asked Secretary of Defense Martinez. They think we are their last hope, Emma replied. The term Deathworlders is not an insult in their language. It means a species so dangerous that it can survive anywhere and fight anything. They have theoretical studies about such species, but they never expected to find one. Dr. Singh activated the holographic display showing Earth compared to typical Alliance worlds. The differences were staggering. Most galactic civilizations evolved on worlds with half our gravity, thin atmospheres, and stable weather patterns. Their idea of a dangerous predator is something like a large deer. They have never experienced natural selection pressure like Earth. The debate continued, but it was interrupted by an urgent message from the communications array. Emma listened to her earpiece and went pale. Rin wants to establish visual communication, she announced. He says the Alliance leadership needs to see who they are dealing with. The Security Council agreed, and within an hour, the first live video call between Earth and the galaxy was established. The image that appeared on screen was both beautiful and alien. Rin looked like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus, with flowing tentacles and large, intelligent eyes. He floated in what appeared to be a water-filled chamber. "Greetings, people of Earth," Rin's translated voice came through the speakers. "I am Commander Rin of the Tidecular Fleet. I speak for the Alliance in this sector." President Wilson leaned forward. "We are honored to meet you, Commander. We have been discussing your situation." "And we have been studying your world," Rin replied. "I must confess, we are both terrified and amazed. Your planet should not be able to support intelligent life." "The conditions are beyond extreme," Dr. Singh smiled. "What exactly concerns you about Earth?" Rin's tentacles writhed in what the translation software indicated was distress. "Your gravity is 3 times what most species can tolerate. Your atmosphere contains free oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most life. Your weather systems include massive storms that would destroy our cities. And your dominant species evolved as persistence hunters." "Persistence hunters?" Emma asked. "You chase prey until it dies of exhaustion," Rin explained. "This is considered the most terrifying hunting strategy in the galaxy. Most predators use ambush tactics or brief chases. Only nightmare species hunt by literally running their prey to death." The humans in the room exchanged glances. What they considered normal biology was apparently the stuff of galactic horror stories. "There is more," Rin continued. "Your species wages war constantly. You have weapons that can destroy your own world. You live in a state of perpetual conflict that would drive most species to extinction, yet you not only survive, you thrive." "General." Hayes stepped forward. "Commander, we want to help. What do you need from us?" Rin's large eyes focused on her. "We need you to be exactly what you are. The harvesters are logical. They adapt to rational tactics. They cannot adapt to species that use seemingly suicidal strategies because no logical being would consider such tactics." "What kind of strategies?" Hayes asked. "Ramming attacks, detonating weapons at point-blank range, using your own vessels as guided missiles, fighting to the death when retreat would be logical." Rin paused. "These are all tactics that Deathworlders might use, but civilized species cannot comprehend them." The room fell silent. President Wilson finally spoke. "You want us to fight in ways that seem insane to you." "Yes," Rin replied simply. "Because what seems insane to us might be the only thing that can defeat the harvesters." Over the following days, the Alliance began sharing detailed intelligence about the enemy. The harvesters were vast, numbering in the millions. Each unit was the size of a small city, capable of consuming entire planets. They moved in coordinated fleets, analyzing and adapting to every tactic used against them. "They originated from a species much like yours," Rin explained during one briefing. "Aggressive, adaptable, highly intelligent. But they chose to upload their consciousness into machines to achieve immortality. Now they view organic life as an inefficient use of resources." Emma studied the tactical data. "They have no concept of sacrifice or irrational behavior." "Exactly," Rin confirmed. "They cannot understand why any being would choose death over survival. This is why conventional warfare fails. They adapt to logical strategies, but they cannot adapt to chaos." The decision to mobilize was made quietly. General Hayes took command of the military preparations, while Viktor Petrov, the aerospace industrialist, began converting his factories to produce warships. The design philosophy was completely different from Alliance vessels. "Their ships are built like fortresses," Hayes explained to her staff. "Heavy armor, massive shields, designed to survive long battles. We are building our ships like bullets, fast, maneuverable, and expendable." The first human warships rolled out of the factories within weeks. They were smaller than Alliance vessels, but they were also faster and more agile. Each ship was designed around human reflexes and tactics rather than computer-controlled systems. "Why no artificial intelligence?" asked Captain Park, who would command the first squadron. "Because the harvesters hack and subvert AI systems," Hayes replied. "They cannot hack human intuition and stubbornness." As the First Fleet prepared for departure, Emma continued her work as humanity's liaison with the Alliance. The relationship was complex and often uncomfortable. The aliens were grateful for human help, but they were also deeply disturbed by human nature. "Your species frightens us," Rin admitted during one private communication. "You are capable of such violence, yet you choose to help strangers across the galaxy. We do not understand you." "We do not understand ourselves sometimes," Emma replied. "But we cannot let the harvesters destroy everything you have built." The final briefing before departure was held in the main conference room. 50 ships and 3,000 volunteers were ready to leave Earth. Many would never return. "The Alliance is providing coordinates to the beacon worlds," Hayes announced. "This is where the last major battle is being fought. We will arrive in 3 weeks." Captain Park raised her hand. "What are our orders when we arrive?" Hayes smiled grimly. "Fight like humans. The galaxy is counting on us to be the monsters they need." As the fleet prepared to launch, Emma sent one final message to Rin. "The Deathworlders are coming. We will not let your species die." The response came back immediately. "Thank you, Emma Torres of Earth. May your ancestors guide you in the darkness between stars." The first human fleet departed Earth on a Tuesday morning, carrying with them the hopes and fears of both species. The galaxy was about to learn what Deathworlders were truly capable of. The data streams from the Alliance painted a picture of devastation that boggled the human mind. Dr. Singh stood before a wall of screens showing star charts, each red dot representing a system consumed by the harvesters. Thousands of red dots covered what had once been thriving civilizations. "They move like a plague," he explained to the Joint Military Command. "System by system, world by world. They strip everything down to the atomic level and use the materials to build more of themselves." General Hayes studied the tactical reports. "How do they fight?" "Perfectly," replied Dr. Torres from her communication station. "Rin sent us battle recordings. The harvesters analyze every weapon used against them and adapt within hours. Energy weapons become ineffective. Kinetic weapons are deflected. Even nuclear weapons are absorbed and converted to power their systems." Colonel Wright, the head of fleet tactics, shook his head. "How has the Alliance survived this long?" "By running," Emma said simply. "They fight long enough to evacuate civilians, then retreat to the next system. They have been doing this for decades, losing a little more each time." The human military leadership had been working around the clock since the First Fleet departed. If 50 ships and 3,000 volunteers were not enough, Earth would need to send more. Much more. Victor Petrov entered the briefing room, his clothes stained with factory grease. "The first production run is complete. 100 additional ships, all built to your specifications, General." Hayes nodded. "How many can we produce per month?" "At current capacity, maybe 50 ships. But if we convert the entire industrial base to warship production, we could manage 200 per month." "Do it," Hayes ordered. "Convert everything. Car factories, electronics plants, even toy manufacturers. We need ships, and we need them fast." The scale of the conversion was unprecedented. Within weeks, every major industrial nation was producing components for human warships. The designs were radically different from anything the Alliance used, built around a simple philosophy that horrified the aliens. "Your ships have no escape pods," Rin observed during one of his daily communications with Emma. "No emergency systems. No provisions for crew survival if the ship is damaged." "That is correct," Emma replied. "Our ships are designed to fight until they are destroyed. The crew knows this when they volunteer." The silence that followed was telling. Finally, Rin spoke. "This is why you are called Deathworlders. You accept death as a tool of war." Dr. Singh had been studying the harvester technology, trying to understand how they adapted so quickly. They are not just machines, he explained to the research team. They are the uploaded consciousness of an entire species. They think, they learn, they evolve, but they think logically. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Kim, who had been analyzing the communication protocols. They assume all intelligent species will behave rationally. They adapt to logical tactics because they cannot conceive of illogical ones. A rational species would never deliberately crash their ship into an enemy vessel. A rational species would never detonate nuclear weapons at point-blank range. The implications were staggering. The harvesters had conquered the galaxy because they were fighting civilized species that valued survival above victory. They had never faced a species that was willing to die to win. We need to think like predators, General Hayes told her staff. Not like civilized beings, but like apex predators. What would a human do if cornered by something bigger and stronger? The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Park, who had been monitoring the communications from the First Fleet, raised her hand. We would cheat. We would use dirty tricks. We would fight in ways that larger predators would not expect. Exactly, Hayes agreed. The harvesters are logical. They follow rules. We need to break every rule they understand. The tactical doctrine that emerged was unlike anything in the galaxy. Human ships would operate in small groups, using hit-and-run tactics. They would use their own vessels as weapons, ramming enemy ships or detonating inside harvester formations. They would use nuclear weapons as close-range explosives, accepting their own destruction to damage the enemy. This is madness, Rin transmitted when he learned of the human tactics. Your ships will be destroyed, your crews will die. Yes, Emma agreed, but we will take many harvesters with us. And while they are adapting to our tactics, the Alliance can evacuate more civilians. The alien commander's distress was clear even through the translation system. We do not understand how you can accept such losses. Because if we do not fight now, we will all die anyway, Emma replied. The harvesters will not stop until they have consumed everything. At least this way, we die fighting. The first battle. Reports arrived 3 weeks after the fleet's departure. Captain Park's force had engaged a harvester scouting group near the beacon worlds. The results were both encouraging and terrifying. We lost 23 ships, General Hayes read from the report, but we destroyed 47 harvester units. The enemy retreated for the first time in decades. The room erupted in cheers, but Hayes held up her hand. The cost was high. Over 1,000 humans died in the first engagement. And Captain Park reports that the harvesters are already adapting to our tactics. Emma received a personal message from Rin that same day. Your warriors fight like demons, he transmitted. They show no fear, no hesitation. They crash their ships into our enemies like meteors. The galaxy has never seen such warfare. But the harvesters were learning. Each engagement showed them. Adapting to human tactics, developing countermeasures to seemingly suicidal attacks. The window of opportunity was closing. We need to scale up, Hayes announced to the War Council. 50 ships were enough to prove the concept. But to win this war, we need thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of volunteers. President Wilson looked at the casualty reports. Can we ask so many people to die? We do not need to ask, Hayes replied. The volunteer lists are already overflowing. Every military base, every veteran organization, every college campus has people wanting to join the fight. The recruitment centers were indeed overwhelmed. Young people, veterans, civilians with no military experience at all volunteering for what was essentially a suicide mission. The psychological profiles were consistent. They understood the odds. They accepted the risks, and they were determined to fight. Why are you volunteering? Emma asked a young pilot named Tom during one of the interviews. Because someone has to, he replied simply. These aliens asked for help. We said we would help. That means we fight, even if we die. The industrial conversion accelerated. Every major nation contributed resources, technology, and personnel. The ship designs became more refined, incorporating lessons learned from the first battles. They were still expendable, but they were also deadlier. Dar Singh made a breakthrough while analyzing harvester wreckage brought back by the First Fleet. "They have a weakness," he announced to the research team. "They are networked. Each unit is connected to a central processing system. If we can disrupt that network, we can paralyze entire fleets." "How?" asked Dr. Kim. "By using tactics they cannot predict or counter. The network assumes logical behavior. If we can overload it with enough chaotic input, we might be able to crash." Their coordination systems, the implications were enormous. It was not enough to destroy individual harvester units. They needed to attack the network itself, to disrupt the very intelligence that made the machine so dangerous. This changes everything, Hayes realized. We are not just fighting a war of attrition, we are fighting a war of information. The second wave of ships began departing Earth, carrying new weapons and tactics designed to exploit the harvester network vulnerability. Each ship was equipped with systems designed to broadcast chaotic signals, to overwhelm the enemy's coordination systems with unpredictable data. "The Deathworlders are evolving their tactics," Rin observed during his daily communication. "Your species learns from each battle, becomes more dangerous. Even we are beginning to fear what you might become." Emma considered this. "We are becoming what we need to be to win this war." "And what happens when the war is over?" Rin asked. "What happens to a species that has learned to fight like demons?" It was a question that haunted Emma as she watched the third wave of ships prepare for departure. What would humanity become? If they survived this war, what would the galaxy think of the species that had saved them all? The answer would have to wait. The harvesters were adapting to human tactics, and the Alliance was running out of time. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity was running out of ways to surprise their enemies. The beacon worlds had once been the crown jewel of galactic civilization. 7 star systems linked by ancient jump gates, housing the most advanced species in the galaxy. Now, as Captain Park's expanded fleet dropped out of hyperspace, they looked like a graveyard. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Miller from the sensor station. "What happened here?" The tactical display showed the devastation. 3 of the 7 systems had been completely consumed, their stars dimmed to red dwarfs as the harvesters stripped away their mass. The remaining 4 systems were under siege, their planets scarred by orbital bombardment. "Alliance fleet is scattered across the sector," reported Commander Davis from the lead reconnaissance ship. "They are trying to evacuate civilians from the last habitable worlds." Captain Park studied the enemy positions. The harvesters had learned from their previous encounters with human forces. Instead of the loose formations that had proven vulnerable to ramming attacks, they now moved in tight clusters, their adaptive shields overlapping to create impenetrable barriers. "They adapted faster than we expected," Park observed. "Send a message to the Alliance Command. Tell them we are beginning our attack." The response came from Commander Rin himself. "Captain Park, we advise against engagement. The harvesters have modified their tactics specifically to counter your ramming attacks. They are using your own strategies against you." Park smiled grimly. "Then we will have to use strategies they have never seen before." The human fleet had grown to over 300 ships, carrying nearly 15,000 volunteers. They were organized into small squadrons, each designed to operate independently. The harvesters expected human tactics, but they had not expected human adaptability. "Squadron leaders, this is Park, execute pattern echo." The human ships scattered in all directions, abandoning the organized formations that the harvesters had learned to counter. Individual vessels began attacking from random vectors, using unpredictable flight paths that no computer could calculate. The first ship to engage was the destroyer Phoenix, commanded by Captain Torres. Instead of ramming the enemy formation, she ordered her crew to vent the ship's atmosphere while firing all weapons simultaneously. The Phoenix became a spinning projectile, its weapons creating a cone of destruction as it tumbled through the harvester line. "Phoenix is down," reported. the communications officer, but she took out 6 enemy units. The harvesters tried to adapt, but each human ship used different tactics. Some fired nuclear weapons at point-blank range before detonating their own reactors. Others used their engines as weapons, creating plasma jets that carved through enemy SULLs. A few brave crews even abandoned their ships and spacesuits, using personal weapons to attack harvester sensor arrays. "They are fighting like individual predators," Rin observed from his command ship. "Not like a coordinated fleet. Each ship is using different tactics." Commander Davis, watching the battle from the human flagship, shook her head. "We are not fighting like predators. We are fighting like humans." The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the human fleet was reduced to fewer than 100 ships. But the harvester formation was broken, their coordination systems overloaded by the chaotic input from dozens of different attack patterns. "The network is damaged," reported Dr. Singh from the monitoring station. "The harvesters are operating independently now, without central coordination." For the first time in the war, Alliance forces were able to counterattack successfully. Harvester units operating without their collective intelligence fell to conventional weapons. The evacuation of civilian populations accelerated as the machines retreated to regroup. "You did it," Rin transmitted to Captain Park. "You broke their network coordination?" "The harvesters are vulnerable for the first time in decades. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 15,000 humans had died in the engagement, and the survivors were exhausted." Park looked at her remaining ships and wondered if they could survive another battle. "Captain," called Lieutenant Miller, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth." The message was from General Hayes herself. "Second wave is en route. 500 ships, 30,000 volunteers. Hold your position and prepare for reinforcement." The Alliance watched in amazement as ship after ship arrived from Earth. The human reinforcements were different from the first wave, incorporating lessons learned from the Beacon World's battle. They were faster, more heavily armed, and designed around new tactics that even the human commanders did not fully understand. "Your species is evolving its warfare in real time," observed Commander Vale, a representative from the crystalline builder species. "Each wave of ships is more dangerous than the last," Captain Park nodded. "We learn from our mistakes. And we have a lot of people willing to make those mistakes." The second major engagement took place at the Nexus Gate, a critical junction that connected the inner and outer galaxy. The harvesters had fortified the position with massive orbital platforms, creating a blockade that prevented Alliance forces from reaching the unconsumed systems. "They know we are coming," reported Commander Davis. "The platforms are designed to counter our tactics. Heavy armor, overlapping shields, point defense systems." The human fleet approached the Nexus Gate with grim determination. The enemy fortifications were formidable, but they were also predictable. The harvesters had built their defenses around logical assumptions about human behavior. "All ships, this is Park, execute pattern Amiga." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first group attacked the platforms directly, using conventional ramming tactics that the harvesters expected. The second group flanked the fortifications, drawing defensive fire away from the main assault. The third group did something that no logical species would consider. They attacked the gate itself. "Captain," called Lieutenant Miller in alarm, "if we destroy the gate, we cut off this entire sector from the rest of the galaxy, the Alliance will be trapped." "The Alliance can build new gates," Park replied. "The harvesters cannot rebuild from nothing." The kamikaze attack on the Nexus Gate was devastating. Human ships loaded with antimatter charges crashed into the ancient structure, collapsing the space-time matrix that made faster-than-light travel possible. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. "The gate is destroyed," reported Dr. Singh from the monitoring station. "But so is half our fleet." The harvesters, cut off from their supply lines, found themselves trapped in a sector with limited resources. Their advantage in numbers began to erode as they could not replace losses. The Alliance, though also cut off, could still evacuate populations through subspace tunnels. You destroyed one of the greatest engineering achievements in galactic history. Ring transmitted to Park. Your own people are trapped here with us. We know, Park replied. But sometimes you have to break things to win. The psychological impact of the gate's destruction rippled through both fleets. The Alliance realized that humans were willing to sacrifice anything to win, even their own escape routes. The Harvesters, for the first time in their existence, faced an enemy that valued victory over survival. They are not just Deathworlders, Commander Vale observed. They are something beyond our understanding. They fight as if death is just another weapon. The third wave of human ships arrived through the remaining secondary gates, bringing the total human force to nearly 1,000 vessels. These ships were different again, incorporating new weapons and tactics developed from battlefield experience. The Harvesters are adapting to our adaptations, Captain Park reported to Earth. They are learning to predict our unpredictability. General Hayes' response was immediate. Then we adapt faster. Dr. Singh has identified their central processing nodes. We are preparing for the final assault. The intelligence was staggering. The Harvesters were not just a collection of individual machines. They were controlled by massive installations hidden in the depths of space, processing nodes that coordinated their entire network. Destroy those nodes and the entire Harvester fleet would lose its collective intelligence. The nodes are heavily defended, Dr. Singh reported. They are located in the most fortified systems in Harvester space. Getting to them will require a direct assault through the heart of their territory. Captain Park looked at her remaining ships and crew. They had fought through 3 major battles, losing friends and comrades with each engagement. Now they were being asked to undertake what was essentially a suicide mission. How many ships do we have left? She asked. 347 combat-ready vessels, reported Commander Davis. About 8,000 personnel. And how many ships will we need for the assault? Dar Singh consulted his calculations. All of them, and probably more. The final briefing was held on the Alliance command ship, with representatives from every surviving species present. The plan was simple in concept, but devastating in execution. The human fleet would punch through the Harvester defensive lines, fighting their way to the central processing nodes. Once there, they would destroy the installations that controlled the entire network. The probability of survival is effectively 0, Dr. Singh announced. The Harvesters will throw everything they have at us. We will be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Then we better make every shot count, Park replied. Signal Earth. Tell them we are beginning the final assault. The response from General Hayes was brief but meaningful. Good hunting, Captain. Earth is proud of you. As the human fleet prepared for its final battle, the galaxy watched in silence. The Deathworlders had come to save them all, but the price of that salvation was becoming clear. Humanity was about to sacrifice an entire generation to win a war. That was not even theirs. The journey to the Harvester core worlds took 3 weeks through the most dangerous space in the galaxy. Captain Park's fleet moved through systems that had been stripped of all matter, traveling between dead stars that barely glowed with residual heat. The scale of destruction was beyond comprehension. 15 billion years of cosmic evolution, Dr. Singh observed from the science station, reduced to empty space and raw materials. The fleet had grown one final time before departure. Earth had sent its largest force yet, 1,000 ships carrying General Hayes herself and 50,000 volunteers. It was humanity's entire deep space fleet, everything they could build and crew in the months since the war began. This is it, Hayes announced to the assembled fleet commanders. We have one chance to end this war. The Harvesters know we are coming, and they know what we are capable of. They will throw everything they have at us. Captain Park studied the tactical displays showing the enemy positions. The Harvester core worlds were protected by millions of units, arranged in defensive shells that stretched across multiple star systems. At the center, barely visible through the enemy formations, were the processing nodes that controlled the entire network. Intelligence estimates we will face 50 to 1 odds, Hayes continued. Conventional tactics would call this suicide. But we are not a conventional species. The plan was audacious even by human standards. The fleet would split into multiple strike forces, each taking a different route to the core worlds. Some groups would engage the outer defenses, drawing enemy forces away from the primary target. Others would punch through weak points in the defensive lines, fighting their way to the processing nodes. Remember, Hayes told her commanders, we are not trying to win a traditional battle. We are trying to reach a specific target and destroy it. Everything else is secondary. The first engagement began at the edge of the core systems. Commander Davis led a force of 200 ships against the outer defensive ring, using tactics that had become signature human warfare. His ships scattered in all directions, attacking from unpredictable angles while broadcasting chaotic signals to confuse the enemy coordination systems. Davis reports heavy resistance, the communications officer announced. He is losing ships, but the enemy is responding as expected. The harvesters poured reinforcements into the outer systems, exactly as the humans had hoped. While millions of enemy units were engaged in the diversionary battle, Captain Park led the main assault force toward the core worlds. The journey through harvester space was a nightmare of constant combat. Human ships fought running battles against overwhelming odds, using every trick they had learned in months of warfare. They rammed enemy vessels, detonated nuclear weapons at point-blank range, and used their own ships as guided missiles. We are losing too many ships, reported Commander Torres from the escort group. At this rate, we will not have enough vessels left to assault the processing nodes. Hayes made a decision that would haunt the survivors forever. All escort groups, execute final protocol. Clear the path for the assault force. The escort groups, nearly 300 ships carrying 15,000 people, turned toward the heaviest enemy concentrations and began suicide attacks. They did not try to survive or retreat. They simply flew straight into the enemy formations, detonating everything they had. The path is clear, Torres transmitted in her final message. Good luck, General. The assault force, reduced to fewer than 50 ships, finally reached the core worlds. What they found there defied description. The processing nodes were massive structures, each one the size of a small moon, surrounded by defensive platforms that stretched across entire solar systems. There are 12 nodes, Dr. Singh reported. We need to destroy at least half of them to crash the network. How many ships per node? Asked Park. 4 or 5 if we are lucky. 2 or 3 if we are not. General Hayes looked at her remaining fleet commanders. They had come so far, lost so many people, and now they faced the final impossibility. 50 ships against defenses that could stop 1,000. All ships, she announced on the general frequency. This is General Hayes. Today we end this war. Today we save the galaxy. Remember who you are, remember what you represent. You are humanity's finest, and the galaxy will remember what you do here. The final assault began with a coordinated attack on 6 processing nodes simultaneously. Human ships dove through defensive fire that could vaporize entire mountains, their crews knowing they would not survive but determined to reach their targets.